Is the American dream a fading memory? For millions, the promise of prosperity feels more like a cruel joke. Across the nation, states once seen as beacons of opportunity are now struggling under the weight of widespread poverty and a severe homelessness crisis. What happens when the foundations of society begin to crumble? In this documentary, we investigate the 10 states at the highest risk of collapse. We will journey past the glossy postcards and into the heart of communities shaken by economic hardship and social decay. From shocking statistics on poverty to the heartbreaking stories of those living on the streets, we expose the startling reality unfolding in our own backyard. This exploration reveals the numbers and narratives that challenge what we thought we knew about the future of the nation. Let's uncover the truth together. Starting now. 1. The Last Frontier's harsh reality. Alaska, known as the Last Frontier, conjures images of majestic glaciers, sprawling wilderness, and untamed beauty. It's a paradise for adventurers and those seeking solitude amidst nature's grandeur. However, beneath this pristine surface lies a different, more challenging reality. In recent years, Alaska has experienced a significant population decline as residents grapple with harsh living conditions and scarce economic opportunity. This is a land that tests the resilience of even its most seasoned inhabitants. The state's economy is heavily dependent on the oil and fishing industries, which offer limited job prospects for many. This narrow economic base means that when these sectors falter, the ripple effects are felt across entire communities, leading to widespread unemployment and financial instability. The high cost of living exacerbates these economic pressures. Essentials like groceries, fuel, and housing are significantly more expensive than in the lower 48 states, due to the logistical challenges of transporting goods to this remote region. For families already struggling with low wages or unemployment, these inflated costs create an impossible situation, pushing many into poverty and homelessness. The homeless crisis in Alaska is particularly dire. Unlike in milder climates, being without shelter here is a life-threatening ordeal. The state's brutal winters with freezing temperatures and heavy snowfall turn survival into a daily battle. Many of those without homes are forced to take refuge in dense forests or construct makeshift camps, offering little protection against the elements. These conditions highlight the stark contrast between Alaska's enchanting beauty and the brutal fight for survival its most vulnerable residents endure. For anyone considering a move to this state, it is a crucial reminder that preparation is key. It requires more than just warm clothing. It demands a solid financial foundation and an understanding that this unforgiving landscape leaves no room for carelessness. 2. Baltimore's unyielding struggle. In the heart of Maryland, the city of Baltimore faces a crisis of poverty and homelessness that has become an undeniable part of its daily life. For thousands of its residents, the struggle for survival is not a distant concept, but a present reality. Official figures paint a grim picture, with more than a quarter of the city's population living below the poverty line. This means that a substantial portion of Baltimore's citizens cannot afford basic necessities like adequate food, stable housing, or clean clothes. Imagine the constant weight of this burden, where a warm meal or a safe place to sleep at night becomes a luxury. This is the difficult truth for countless families and individuals who find themselves trapped in a cycle of destitution with little hope of escape. The city's streets tell stories of hardship and neglect, serving as a constant reminder of a system that is failing its people. The homelessness crisis in Baltimore is equally alarming. In January 2022, data showed thousands of people experiencing homelessness within the city limits. While some managed to find temporary refuge in shelters, many others are left to fend for themselves on the streets, sleeping in cars or on cold sidewalks. They are stripped of the fundamental security of a home, facing daily challenges that extend far beyond finding their next meal. Personal safety becomes a constant concern, and the lack of stability takes a severe toll on both physical and mental health. This situation is not just a local issue. It is a reflection of a larger national crisis that demands attention and action. The persistent questions hang heavy in the air. When will the authorities implement effective long-term solutions? When will Baltimore and other cities facing similar plights receive the comprehensive support needed to address the root causes of poverty and homelessness and restore dignity to their communities? 3. Paradise Lost. The Hawaii Dilemma. Hawaii, a chain of islands synonymous with paradise, attracts millions with its idyllic white sand beaches, lush landscapes, and vibrant culture. It's a dream destination for travelers seeking a tropical escape. However, for many of the people who call this beautiful place home, the reality is far from a dream. The cost of living in this so-called paradise has escalated to a nightmarish level, pushing the state into a severe population decline and placing it on a precarious edge. The staggering expense of housing is at the core of the crisis. In Honolulu, renting a modest one-bedroom apartment can easily cost thousands of dollars per month, while a two-bedroom unit commands an even higher price. These figures are simply unattainable for a large segment of the local population, whose wages have not kept pace with the soaring market. The financial strain extends beyond housing. Due to Hawaii's heavy reliance on imported goods, the cost of everyday necessities like food and fuel is among the highest in the nation. Living a simple life here requires a substantial income, creating a paradox where the state's natural beauty is accessible only to the wealthy. This crushing economic pressure has led to another distressing distinction. Hawaii has one of the highest per capita homelessness rates in the United States. Thousands of residents, unable to afford housing, are forced into temporary shelters or tent encampments, often in the shadows of the luxury resorts that dominate the tourism industry. This stark contradiction between the advertised image of opulent vacations and the grim reality of local suffering is jarring. While government and local organizations have made efforts to address these issues, the current support systems are under-resourced and insufficient to tackle the deep-seated problems of housing affordability and economic disparity. Without systemic change, the dream of living in Hawaii will remain just that for many of its own people. 4. The Keystone State's cracking foundation. Pennsylvania, historically known as the Keystone State for its central role in the founding of America, now finds itself struggling to secure a stable future for its own residents. The state that once served as a cornerstone of the nation is now grappling with a significant population decline, earning it a spot on the list of the fastest shrinking states. In a single year, Pennsylvania lost approximately 40,000 residents, a clear signal that something is fundamentally wrong. The majority of those leaving are in search of better economic opportunities elsewhere, a telling indictment of the state's current economic climate. This exodus is a direct consequence of a shifting industrial landscape that has left many communities behind. For generations, Pennsylvania was a manufacturing powerhouse, providing stable, well-paying jobs that supported families and built strong communities. However, the decline of this sector has left a void, resulting in widespread job losses, stagnant wages, and a pervasive lack of opportunity. The average household income in Pennsylvania now sits below the national average, making it increasingly difficult for families to make ends meet. This economic downturn has contributed to a rise in homelessness, as more people find themselves unable to afford housing. The combined pressures of population decline and a growing homeless crisis serve as a stark warning. Comprehensive solutions are urgently needed to address the state's economic challenges, invest in modern infrastructure, and provide robust support systems for those who are struggling. Pennsylvania is at a critical juncture. Without immediate and decisive action to revitalize its economy and create new pathways to prosperity, the state risks a future far bleaker than its storied past. The dark side of the Vegas dream. Las Vegas, a city built on spectacle and excess, is world-renowned for its dazzling lights, opulent casinos, and the promise of instant fortune. But beyond the glittering facade of the Strip lies a darker, often ignored reality. This is a city of extreme contrasts, where immense wealth and deep poverty exist side by side. While tourists indulge in high-stakes gambling and luxury entertainment, a significant portion of the city's residents are fighting a daily battle for survival. Nearly 15% of the Las Vegas population lives below the poverty line, struggling to afford basic necessities in a city that celebrates extravagance. This isn't just a statistic. It represents thousands of families who are left behind by the very economy that defines their hometown. The situation has grown even more sore in recent years. The number of people experiencing homelessness in Las Vegas has surged, with a 12% increase recorded in. These are individuals without a roof over their heads, trying to survive in a city where the cost of living continues to climb. While the casino and tourism industries are the lifeblood of Las Vegas, the jobs they provide are often low-wage service positions, with little stability or opportunity for advancement. These wages are not enough to keep up with rising housing costs, pushing more people into financial precarity. The city's rates population growth has further intensified the problem, creating a severe shortage of affordable housing. As demand outstrips supply, low-income residents are squeezed out of the market, increasing their risk of homelessness. It raises a heartbreaking question. What does it feel like to be surrounded by unimaginable wealth, yet have no place to call home? Las Vegas was founded on dreams, but for too many, that dream has become a nightmare. The city now faces the challenge of breaking this vicious cycle and creating a community where prosperity is accessible to all, not just a lucky few. 6. Louisiana's fading vibrancy. Louisiana, the heartland of jazz, Creole cuisine, and the world-famous Mardi Gras festival, is a state celebrated for its rich culture and infectious energy. Yet beneath the lively rhythms and vibrant traditions, a somber trend is unfolding. The state is experiencing a significant exodus, ranking 5th among the fastest declining states in America. The reasons for this departure are deeply rooted in economic hardship. Louisiana grapples with one of the highest poverty rates in the nation, with nearly 1 in 5 residents living in poverty. The average household income is substantially lower than the national average, making it incredibly difficult for families to achieve financial stability, let alone get ahead. For households with children and elderly members, this low income level creates a constant state of precarity, where basic needs become a daily struggle. This persistent economic strain is compelling many to pack their bags in search of better opportunities and a more secure future elsewhere. The economic challenges are compounded by a severe homelessness crisis, which is intensified by the state's vulnerability to natural disasters. In major cities like New Orleans and Baton Rouge, a large number of people live without stable housing. The most vulnerable members of society, particularly those dealing with unemployment or chronic illness, find it nearly impossible to maintain a roof over their heads. A combination of low wages, rising housing costs, and a lack of affordable housing options leaves many with no viable solution. Furthermore, Louisiana's geography makes it a frequent target for hurricanes and flooding, which have repeatedly devastated communities and left thousands of families homeless. The aftermath of Hurricane Katrina in 2005 is still felt today, as many areas continue to struggle with recovery and rebuilding. Though efforts were made to reconstruct damaged homes, countless residents were never able to return, adding to the ranks of the displaced and homeless. Louisiana is weathering storms both literal and figurative, and it is clear that its government and citizens must unite to find and implement immediate sustainable solutions to reverse this decline. 7. The Mountain State's uphill battle. West Virginia, often affectionately called Almost Heaven, holds a special place in the American imagination with its rolling hills and scenic beauty. For a growing number of its residents, however, this idyllic landscape has become a place they feel forced to leave behind. The state is contending with a series of profound economic and demographic crises that are reshaping its future. Historically, West Virginia was the epicenter of America's coal mining industry, a sector that provided a livelihood for generations. The collapse of this industry has been devastating, with a staggering 40% reduction in coal-related jobs over the last decade alone. This decline has hollowed out entire communities, leaving them without a primary economic engine, and forcing residents to look for work in other states. The economic fallout has made it difficult for people to secure stable housing. While home prices in West Virginia are not as astronomical as in major coastal cities, they remain out of reach for many low and middle-income families. The problem is worsened by a shortage of affordable housing programs and long-term support systems. As a result, many find themselves in desperate situations, sleeping in cars, living in tents, or seeking shelter on the street. While West Virginia does not have the highest number of homeless individuals in the country, the issue is a growing concern. According to the West Virginia Coalition to End Homelessness, there are around 1,000 people recorded as homeless across the state, a figure that includes those in shelters and transitional housing. These individuals face a constant struggle for basic necessities, from meals to personal safety. Adding to these challenges is a significant demographic shift. West Virginia has the highest median age in the nation. This is largely because young people are leaving the state in search of better job prospects, creating a brain drain and a shrinking workforce. The population that remains is older and often more reliant on social services, creating a difficult cycle to break. West Virginia has a history of resilience, but it is now facing the immense pressures of a changing world. Its ability to innovate and adapt will determine whether it can forge a new path to prosperity. 8. The land of Lincoln's mass exodus. Illinois, a state with a storied history and a distinct cultural identity, is facing a troubling paradox. The The very people who built its communities are now leaving in droves. Known as the Land of Lincoln, Illinois is now on the list of states with the fastest declining populations in the United States. In 2023 alone, the state lost nearly 140,000 residents, enough people to fill Chicago's Soldier Field twice over. A primary driver of this mass exodus is the state's notoriously high tax burden. Illinois residents face a significant state income tax, which is compounded by some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. For many families, the financial strain has become unsustainable, forcing them to question whether living in the state is still worth the cost. The answer for tens of thousands has been to move to states with a lower cost of living and a more favorable tax environment. However, taxes are just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Illinois is saddled with a colossal financial burden, including a public pension debt that has ballooned to over. This massive liability functions like an unpayable credit card bill, casting a long shadow over the state's finances and undermining its ability to fund essential public services like education, infrastructure, and healthcare. This financial instability also creates the looming threat of future tax hikes, further incentivizing residents to leave. The economic pressures have also fueled a disturbing homelessness crisis, particularly in Chicago. Across the state, more than 65,000 people are living without stable housing. The high cost of rent and the lack of affordable housing options mean that even working individuals and families struggle to find a place to live. Existing support programs for the homeless are under-resourced and unable to meet the ever-growing demand. The situation in Illinois serves as a powerful wake-up call about the urgent need for fiscal reform and meaningful investment in people. Without significant changes, the Land of Lincoln risks losing the very soul of its communities. 9. California's broken dream. California, the Golden State, has long been viewed as a paradise of opportunity, blessed with stunning coastlines, a thriving tech industry, and a culture of innovation. Today, however, that dream is fracturing, as the state experiences a crisis of affordability that is driving out its own residents in record number. In 2023, more than 250,000 people left California, a staggering figure that raises a critical question: why is a place that seems so perfect on the surface unable to retain its people? The answer lies in the crushing cost of living. While California's beauty is undeniable, its scenic vistas cannot help low and middle-income residents pay their bills. The average home price in the state has soared to an astonishing $750,000, more than double the national average, making homeownership an impossible dream for many. Renting offers little relief. A one-bedroom apartment in major cities like San Francisco or Los Angeles can easily command several $1,000s a month, consuming a huge portion of a typical salary. This financial strain is compounded by one of the highest state income tax rates in the nation. At 30%, for families already struggling to cover rent and daily expenses, this tax burden is the final straw, turning the California dream into an unbearable nightmare. The crisis has become so severe that even major businesses and tech corporations are relocating to states like Texas and Nevada, seeking relief from high operational costs and taxes. The problem is not limited to those who leave. It is also deeply felt by those who remain. California is now the epicenter of America's homelessness crisis, with an estimated 105,000 people living without shelter across the state, the highest number in the nation. Walking through the streets of Los Angeles or San Francisco, one is confronted by the heartbreaking sight of sprawling tent encampments, a stark testament to a promise that has been broken for far too many. California's exodus is a powerful warning about the dangerous gap between perception and reality. 10. The Empire State's Great Departure. New York, the iconic symbol of the American dream and a global hub of finance, culture, and ambition, is now experiencing a great departure. It seems unthinkable that the Empire State would be on a list of collapsing states, but in 2023, nearly 180,000 residents packed their bags and left. They are heading for places like Florida and Texas, seeking relief from the state's immense financial pressures and high tax rate. The primary reason for this exodus is the astronomical cost of living. New York is one of the most expensive places to live in the country, with daily expenses running almost 50% higher than the national average. The dream of owning a home is out of reach for most, with the average house price approaching $500,000. The rental market is even more daunting, with average monthly rents in New York City hovering around. These figures are simply unimaginable for the average person, making financial survival a constant struggle. The state's tax policies only add to the burden, New York has the second highest state income tax rate in the United States, reaching up to For many families and individuals already stretched thin, this punishing tax rate becomes the breaking point, forcing them to abandon the place they call home in favor of a more affordable and sustainable life elsewhere. This mass departure has occurred alongside a deepening homelessness crisis. With more than 91,000 people living without a home, New York now has one of the highest rates of homelessness in the nation. Every night, thousands of people are forced to sleep on the streets, in subways or in crowded shelters, struggling to meet their most basic needs for food, safety, and healthcare. The exodus from New York is a powerful signal that even the most established and celebrated symbols of prosperity must adapt to the changing needs of their people. The state now faces a critical choice. Will it find a way to retain its residents and restore its promise, or will it continue to watch as more and more people are forced to leave?